So day 1 of moving to Japan for work. I stopped on the way to the airport to say goodbye to my family, and then I was off. I have 3 huge checked bags with my whole life packed into them that I brought to LAX. I love Los Angeles, but this is the most poorly designed airport I've ever been to. My landlord dropped me off in exchange for buying her dinner, and soon enough I was in the air. I wore like 5 layers so I wouldn't be too cold to sleep on the airplane. Slept in my seat for 7 hours, watched sad romantic anime for 5 hours. And before I knew it, I had landed in Osaka after one quick layover in Tokyo. In contrast to LAX, Itami Airport in Osaka was extremely quick and easy to get through, with robots and vending machines, and it only took like 10 minutes to get through immigration. However, I would have honestly been in serious trouble trying to carry all my luggage myself from the airport if it wasn't for my amazing friend and coworker Sakurako, who came to pick me up from the airport in her car. It really still felt like a dream to be back in Osaka. We arrived at my apartment and discovered it was on the same block as a bunch of love hotels, but I really don't mind that at all, and maybe that made it more affordable. We decided to drop off my luggage and then head to my first breakfast back in Japan. So we walked to a close by cafe that overlooked the Dotonbori River, and I ordered a club sandwich. I know it doesn't feel like the most Japanese first meal, but no regrets, it was delicious. Sakurako then went to work, and I decided to walk around town alone to get a feeling for my new neighborhood. Then an attractive robot gave me information on where to find an electronics store, and I went to buy a prepaid data SIM card for my cell phone. Finally, it was time to relax in my new Osaka room and begin to unpack. I didn't get very far before I got a message from 2 of my close friends in the neighborhood saying that they were outside, so I met up with Arashi and Yuki, and we went to go get my first Japanese dinner together. I hadn't seen them in almost 2 years, so we had a lot to catch up on. They said that my Japanese language got strange while I was away, and asked why I didn't have a girlfriend. We then ate Basashi. This place is a tachi-nomi bar, where you stand while you eat and drink. This conserves space, but also makes for a more open, casual atmosphere. They taught me that these 2,000 yen bills are also rare. And then we decided to go out to some local lounges in the city. So my friend came with their car and their adorable puppy, Yukun. Yukun sat in my lap, and I love how all the trees are illuminated with lights in the winter in Japan. I was getting kind of tired, but I always try to stay up as late as I can on my first night in Japan, so that I can more quickly adjust to the Japanese time zone. Anyway, my friend's energy easily kept me wide awake, and they got me this bottle of nice Japanese sake as a welcome back to Japan gift. Finally, we sung some karaoke, which made me realize my Japanese did actually get worse, and I walked home and slept extremely well. So day 2 of moving to Japan for work, when I already make a mistake that I very much regret. But anyway, the day started off great. I woke up energetic at 4 in the morning because that's 11 in the morning in California time, and immediately began the mission of unpacking everything I own into this tiny room. I took a couple breaks to go buy coffee from the vending machines on my new street, and basically finished organizing my new apartment just as the sun was beginning to rise. And I knew that I had a busy day ahead of me, so I went to quickly find some breakfast, settling on this bag of tangerines for like $2.50. I already felt pretty comfortable having breakfast in my new place. I got pretty accustomed to smaller spaces when I came to Japan the first time as a student, so I took a shower in my tiny shower, and before I left for my work meeting, I went up to my apartment's rooftop to look at the view. This is something I always like to do when I move, and I feel like it somehow kinda grounds me and helps me feel settled in. So I left for my meeting and passed a Hedgehog Cafe before I arrived at my friend's pizza parlor, where we'd be holding our meeting. I work as a camera operator and video editor, so here me and my friends and colleagues had a meeting about what local media teams I would be joining, as well as my work visa and transportation logistics for upcoming video projects, and drone piloting permits and stuff like that. Our friend's fresh-made pizza is also wild and delicious, so side note, but definitely check out That's Pizza if you're ever in Namba, Osaka. Anyway, meeting adjourned, and I had my first job the next day, so I started to walk home so I could prep my camera equipment. And here's where my mistake begins, actually with something very fortunate and exciting happening. I got a message from my old friend Shiori, who I went to school with in Kyoto. I hadn't seen her since shortly after we graduated, and she went off to become a high school teacher. But she had heard that I just arrived back in Osaka, and she happened to be visiting Osaka herself for some kind of work trip, so she asked if I wanted to meet up and have a reunion, which I happily agreed to. So then anyway, I was wild excited, so I quickly headed home, after stopping for some quick takoyaki because it smelled so good from the street. I planned to do some quick editing work and then get ready to head out. Shiori was visiting Osaka from work from Tokyo, so she said she'd call me as soon as her education conference finished. I told her that I was still kind of tired from my trip, so I might take a nap, but I'd leave my apartment door unlocked so she could just come in if she wanted. And you might already be able to guess what I regret. I passed out because of jet lag and slept through her phone calls, and even slept through her coming over to my place. I woke up at midnight to the food that she brought me on the table, and an awful picture of me sleeping that she sent me. A good friend that I hadn't seen for years, and I couldn't even wake up. Anyway, we called, I apologized, and we actually talked and caught up for a bit, but she had already gotten a hotel across town. I felt better after the call, but still a bit sad and lonely, so I called some friends to see what they were up to, and they were at a nearby lounge called Tokibook, so I went to go say hi. Anyway, I learned to not underestimate jet lag or travel fatigue, especially if I'm making plans that are important to me. It can happen easily when I'm traveling and get excited and try to overplan stuff, so I'll learn from this and next time prioritize taking a nap. Hopefully I'll meet Shiori next time. Anyway, then I went home, prepped for work, and slept really well. So day 3 of moving to Japan for work, when I really start to focus on surviving here finally. financially. I woke up at 6 a.m. after kind of a late night, so I feel like I'm almost adjusted to Japan's time zone. Before I went to my first day of work, I wanted to buy another one of these power cords as well as groceries for my apartment. So I left early, past all the love hotels that are next to my apartment, and headed to the closest electronics district called Denten Town. Denten Town is also famous, by the way, for being Osaka's center of pop culture, anime, and gaming merchandise. So you'll see a lot of maid cafes and figure stores here, as well as electronic shops, kind of like the Akihabara of Osaka. Anyway, I picked up my power cord and went to get groceries, because even with extremely affordable convenience store food and street food, cooking at home is the most affordable way to survive here. And that is the budget that will make this international move possible for me. My budget go-to is a ton of vegetables that I use to make salads that I enjoy with olive oil and vinaigrette, eggs for omelets, a ton of tea bags saves me money over always buying drinks at the convenience store. Tofu here costs like 25 cents, and lean beef that I fry. By the way, this is the look and size of most Japanese shopping carts. Living in Japan, whenever possible, I like to cook a lot of very cheap, healthy meals so that I can afford to get really nice food with friends every now and then. Anyway, it was almost time for my first day of work, and I was actually kind of nervous, so I hurried home to take a shower. Here is the view of my room from my shower, and waited for my colleague to come pick me up. It always surprises me that cars in Japan have television in the front seat. I feel like that would be an issue in America, but it's not an issue here at all. Upon arrival, I double and triple checked my camera settings to make me less nervous. My first job would be behind the scenes photo and video for professional kickboxers. My friend and colleague Sakura helped me set up these connections, so she came to accompany me, which was honestly great for moral support with my first job in a new country. And I wasn't allowed to take cell phone video during the shoot, but everything actually went very well. Although I was told by one of the managers that I do need to learn more sports media Japanese vocabulary, and that my Japanese grammar didn't need to be so formal. Anyway, we got seats to watch the rest of the matches after the shoot, and I got my work schedule for the rest of the week. I would be doing 2 nightclub videos and 1 skincare product video. Already, the promise of income abroad and even having groceries at home felt like a small anxiety had been lifted from my chest. Like, doubts about being able to work here were fading away, and I even signed up to take kickboxing classes when one of the coaches offered, because I definitely function better when I exercise regularly. I left the stadium and started to walk home feeling pretty excited about the classes, even though the tournament made them seem kind of frightening. Camera work had made me extremely hungry, and I realized it had been 3 days in Japan and I hadn't had any seafood yet, so I called up a new friend and went to get some sashimi, and was pleasantly reminded why I love Japanese food so much. I then had a quiet night after a long day just watching Chainsaw Man and Spy Family at a friend's house. I would have my first kickboxing class early the next morning, as well as my first nightclub video job, which would last through the night until 4 a.m. And of course I've learned how important it is to get rest, so I walked home kind of early and had the most relaxing sleep I had in Japan yet. So day 4 of moving to Japan for work when I have my first nightclub video job. I woke up at 7 a.m. to get ready for the kickboxing classes that I spontaneously signed up for the day before. Another student agreed to pick me up and drive. This was the first morning that it felt like I fully adjusted to the Japanese time zone, and I was excited to get back into fitness. My training began, and it was fun and intense. In Japan, I hadn't signed up for a gym membership. I'd always found them to be very expensive, but I've always found that a workout helps me to think more positively, and I really want to prioritize that, especially when an unfamiliar location and job might start to stress me out. And kickboxing also seems to be pretty popular in Japan now, so I think it's a good way to make friends and find a community. When asked, I always say that pursuing any group hobby is my favorite way to make friends in Japan. Anyway, my first class finished. I loved it. I felt destroyed, and I kind of regretted doing an arm workout before I knew I had to hold a heavy camera all night for work, but that was a me problem. Back home, I knew I had a lot of time before my late night club job, so I decided to get my first ramen in Japan. Quite a lot of ramen shops here will have you order your meal through a vending machine like this, where you purchase your meal ticket after making your selection with almost no human interaction. Sometimes you might just feel like eating without talking to anybody, and that's a feeling that Japanese vendors seem to have understood for a while. It was delicious and only $6.48. Even though I am working, when I'm in Japan, I always want to spend as little money as possible until I actually start getting my paychecks, because you never know when there's a visa error or a residency card error or something that will prevent you from getting paid. Anyway, full and satisfied, I went home to take a nap because my job would be from 11 p.m. to 4 in the morning. I woke up at 8 p.m. and my friends came over to take me to the nightclub manager and owner, because it was through my friend's introduction that I managed to get this job in the first place. So we all went and met up at a cool lounge right by the nightclub, where I showed the manager my previous event video work. When it was approved, I was told what artists and DJs they wanted me to take videos of that night, what VIP sections I should take, and what VIP sections I should not take, that I could use the camera's light on the artists and dancers, but not on the club customers. They'd leave the rest up to me, so I headed to the club's top floor where people were preparing for the night. I just went alone and didn't know anybody, and honestly I was a little bit nervous, but everyone seemed very friendly and professional. I'm also pretty confident with my club video work, so I was getting excited, and just like that, the night began at midnight. It was a lot of fun, and I was getting great shots and meeting cool people, but this kind of work can be tiring, paying full attention to the performance and the audience all night, but I honestly love it. The atmosphere and music does fill me with energy, even though oftentimes I can be a fairly introverted person, and I don't drink during these jobs because camera work is often pretty technical. I don't want to be missing my shots, and also I plan to be doing this work a lot, so drinking really wouldn't be a good habit. Anyway, my night was wrapping up at around 4 in the morning. I took a lot of video, which would be tricky for editing, but I prefer that than missing a cool shot. Anyway, I said goodnight to the owner and walked home in the early Osaka morning. My next day would be my last day of work before a day off, so I was looking forward to experiencing my first night out in Japanese nightlife with my friends the next day. But until then, I uploaded my footage, did a bit of editing, and slept really well. So my first Japanese nightlife after I moved to Osaka for work. On my 5th day in Japan, I woke up at 11 AM after a late night of work. I had the next day off, so I was looking forward to my first night out with old friends. But before that, I quickly walked to my work. These two amazing friends introduced me to today's job, which was a video commercial for handmade local cosmetics. So I spent my midday taking videos in this absolute legend's laboratory as he created skincare products and later demonstrated how to best apply them. I felt really thankful for my Osaka friends to connect me to local entrepreneurs that had a budget for media. And as you will see, being thankful for all the kindness shown to me by the people I've met in Japan will become a theme of this nightlife video. Anyway, I wanted to get paid so I could spend money a little bit recklessly when I went out that night, so I quickly went home to edit. And I edited videos for like 6 hours. Honestly, a lot of my life in Japan is video editing, even though it's not in many of my videos. Anyway, it was finally 10 PM and time to go meet up with my friends. One of them just had some success at work, so we decided to get a table at a club we like. But first we all met up for food at a close by izakaya. I feel like eating food is tied into Japanese nightlife culture much more so than it is in the West. I've barely gone for a night out here when food was not involved. Anyway, I was really excited when I met up with these friends, some of which I hadn't seen for about 2 years. They work in fashion marketing, and imports. We ate yakitori, which is barbecue chicken, and shared various small dishes, which is pretty standard for Japanese nightlife food. And then we walked to the club, and I stopped at my apartment on the way to change clothing. Most nightclubs don't have an explicit dress code, but I bet you have a cooler time if you dress up a bit. And I love how nightlife here all seems very walkable, which I find to be very different from Los Angeles. Anyway, at 11:30 we arrived at the club, got a table pretty quickly, and our amazing night continued. Another difference with nightlife here that I will stand by is that it's much more affordable. I would bet that club entrance and drinks here are less than half the price that they would be in Los Angeles. And that opens up a casual night of music, dancing, and meeting people to a much wider economic demographic, which I really do think positively influences the atmosphere of a night out in Japan. However, I will be the first to admit that my great friends and colleagues here are quite responsible for most of my great nighttime experiences. And that leads me back to how thankful I am and how welcoming and kind I found so many people in Japan to be. A lot of my friends here really took a chance on me back when I could barely speak the language and didn't know the culture very well at all. And I recognized a circle of friends that shared similar values as me and had similar aspirations. And I've never wanted to take that for granted with how I act or live. Also, at this point in the night, I ran out of money and had to run to a close by 7-Eleven's ATM, where I ran into these two people that I work with. Anyway, then I ran back to the club, and final thoughts. People in Japan being so kind to me when they didn't know me always makes me feel like I want to be helpful to people traveling to the US, and has just given me a ton of very positive perspectives on life. Also, nightlife in Japan is amazing and diverse. I hope you give it a try someday if you'd like. And I didn't take that many videos after this, but I had a great night and slept very well, and was so glad I didn't have work the next day.